With the widespread occurrence of scams, many innocent people live in constant fear and anxiety. They don't know when or how these fraudsters will target them or how much they might lose if they become victims. Our priority now is to address this fear and anxiety. While we'll cover various types of scams and offer specific recommendations and suggestions for each, the reality is that the fraudsters will always come up with new and unexpected tactics. And unfortunately, some people will still fall victim. That's why we want to provide general guidelines that reveal the common patterns these scammers use. Once people recognize these patterns and learn how to respond, they will be better equipped to avoid even the newest and most unpredictable scam attempts. By understanding these general strategies for protection, people can feel more empowered and less anxious. This session aims to help build that understanding. So, this is how generally the modus operandi looks like. The fraudster establishes a communication channel with the uninformed people, and then they develop a scenario to trigger urgency or some kind of emotional imbalance, and they use breached data to make it sound authentic. Now, people who are not familiar with these tricks, they usually, you know, get overwhelmed with these emotions. Sometimes the situation is like your son is getting arrested. You need to immediately act if you want to apply for a bail. Or, your Aadhaar card has been used for a loan fraud. So you will have to come under the digital surveillance. Or you know, something that would instill a lot of fear to common people, a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern. Those are one set of um, scenarios that they develop. Then there could be other scenarios as well, something that will excite um, the people. Like, for example, you are being offered with a job, and that the job profile has such and such nice, interesting um, prospects, or something like something as simple as you have won a lottery and you're going to get benefited from it. This much amount of cash will be given to you on your account. Anything that that associates with a prospect of gain. So either the people would deal with the scenarios that will instill a lot of fear, anxiety, concerns, or it will they will deal with the scenario that will uh, create a lot of excitement and prospect of gain in them. And under normal circumstances, they will respond with that emotion and they will try to find the next step. What will be the way out in case it is a negative situation, and what will be the next step if it is a positive situation. And that's when the fraudster would tell them what would be the next step, how to come out of the situation if it is a negative one, or how to go ahead with the situation to gain the benefits if it is a positive one. And this process, or this, the option that they would bring to the table, is what will actually trigger the fraudulent financial transaction or further data breach. So, and of course, normal, instinct is to work under, haste if that sort of psychological pressure is being exerted from the other party. Common people would typically work either in haste or in desperation. If the situation is grim, it will bring the sense of desperation in them, and they will follow the suggestion and end up becoming a victim of a financial fraud. So, what will be a counter strategy? What kind of action should be taken by people to avoid the situations, or to safeguard their interest? So, first and foremost is need to try to ascertain the genuineness of the scenario. Now, you might recall we earlier classified that there could be different types of attack, and depending on what type of attack it is, the approach might just vary a little bit. So we are talking about these three types of attacks: ad hoc attempts using partial data breach, organized attempts using larger data breach, organized attempts uh, through direct hacking. So if you have to ascertain the genuineness of the scenario or for these attempts that are being made using partial data breach, you need to ask for evidence of the particular scenario. You need to ask for, uh, like, for example, if it is a situation, an incident, you need to ask for photographs of the incident. You need to narrate, if it is something linked with certain incident that involves government officials, you'll have to ask for proper documentations proving the incident and things like that. You'll have to ask for details that essentially would help you assess, at least to a certain extent, what is the genuineness of the scenario. Now, if this is about an organized attempt using larger data breach, like for example, a person is masquerading as your friend or relative, and he's kind of asking you to do a favor financially and things like that. So these are essentially going to work out in larger data breach scenarios. You will, even in this case, you'll have to ask for evidences. And while you're asking for this evidence, you'll have to uh, ask not only the evidence of the situation, but also the evidence of the person involved and his or her, um, you know, legitimacy of the identity. So, for example, if he's posing as a friend, ask for a non-existent disease of his, right? I mean, you know that particular friend has never got that particular disease, but you can always ask a questions like, hey, you know, uh, what happened to your that disease? I mean, have you been fully recovered? How things are going on? Things like that. Something that you know for sure is, not something that typically not be known to an imposter. You can ask evidences, you can gather evidences through such queries. Now, if it is an attempt through direct hacking, you need to know exactly what applications or systems has been hacked. You need to have at least some idea about it, and you need to try to ascertain if you still have access to that application or system or not. And if you have access to it, then you might as well try and check the activity history for suspicious activities. Now, while you will be doing it, you need to be, completely keeping yourself out of that system for your all other normal operations. So you should uh, completely switch to a different system because you would not be able to make out how severely the particular hack has impacted your system, your current system or current applications, which has been hacked. So, uh, getting the idea of the severity of the impact is not an easy job, especially in the case of direct hacking. But you would have to cautiously approach it, and you should also definitely make sure that you are not diverging more details in the process. You're not exposing more data or exposing your more other devices or other access credentials during that process. Now, that's about the different ways you can briefly ascertain the genuineness of the scenario. The next step is try and ascertain the extent of the breach. Now, what happens when you're trying to ascertain the extent of the breach? So, for example, if the fraudster is posing as a representative of certain authority, like a police officer or an insurance agent, something along those lines, any of these representatives of uh, authority or institutes, you need to ask to confirm the granular details of the particular account or the profile or the document he's quoting. Like, for example, if insurance representative is talking about insurance fraud, you need to ask for the insurance particular claim, the particular policy ID, the particular policy has been taken under which name, under which ID, what are the details of the ID, who is the nominee, things like that. I mean, something that goes beyond the information that he or she is already providing. And you try to, understand from that, what would be the amount of breach, how much of the information they have already gathered through this. Then let's take another scenario. If the person, the fraudster, is posing as a friend or relative, you should ask for whereabouts of more friends and relatives to ascertain how many social media groups he or she, the fraudster, has access to. You should ask about other common friends, and you should ask about their status, and ask about details of other relatives and things like that. So this is how you would be able to uh, get an idea on the extent of the breach that the person might have access to. And if, let's say, the person is posing as well-wisher, you can ask and confirm granular details of the particular material or particular situation he's referring to. Like, for example, he's talking about a certain benefits that has been offered on your card. Ask about the card details. Ask about what particular company's card he's referring to. If he is giving the idea of the number of the card, and if he knows where the billing address of the card is mentioned. So this is how, if you're gathering the information from these fraudsters posing as well-wisher, and you're asking for details that would essentially prove, uh, uh, you know, uh, it's a challenge for the person as well, right? The fraudster will have to prove that he's really the well-wisher. He's really having sufficient details to carry on this transactions officially. He is responsible for it. So this is how, by asking more questions in the given context, you can ascertain the extent of the breach that the fraudster might have already got access to. Now, if it is the it is about the organized attempt through direct hacking, the approach will have to be a little different. You will still have to work towards ascertaining the extent of the breach, but you should just try, and analyze it by just looking at the same set of information that you tried even on the previous step while you were trying to ascertain the genuineness of the scenario. Try and access the application or the system, try see if you still have got the access or not, and then try to look at the activity history. Now, through that, you should get an idea what kind of activities have been performed, which is not performed by you or not performed by at least the people who has the legitimate access to the particular system. And then you can make out, you know, through those activity logs that what sort of extent of the breach this might be leading to. But again, I mean, not always will have these options open. So keeping the affected application or the system out of a network is a good idea. I mean, you should definitely try to localize the intrusion as much as possible and consider involving a subject matter expert on IT security and network security. If it is really about an attempt which involves direct hacking, you definitely need an expert to deal with it. And then finally, it would be about deciding the course of action. Now, the course of action usually require an offline validation as well. So you need to take the necessary time for offline validation of described scenarios before you take any irreversible action. Once, let's say in haste, you have initiated a payment, you won't be able to reverse it, right? I mean, of course, there are ways. I mean, if you become a victim of a financial loss, you should definitely inform it to the bank. You should try immediately to report it to cybercrime cell as well. But uh, before you go there, try and not take these irreversible actions, and make sure you're doing an offline validation of the scenario. And then you should also seriously consider involving a subject matter expert as soon as you can. If the situation is legal in nature, consider involving a lawyer. If the situation is um, around, IT security, network security, consider involving an IT security expert or network security expert. Depending on where the situation is leading to, you should have some subject matter expert involved in the particular case. That way, you will be, having a safer way forward. And then, if the scenario is leading to a situation like, for example, talking about a loan fraud, they're talking about you being your mandate to make you come under a digital surveillance. Well, I mean, you must definitely go and visit the local police station, and you must definitely try and verify if at all there is an FIR wherever their the authority is reaching out to you. You should definitely try and validate by using a local branch of that authority to understand that if the situation is real, because the local branches will have their own official channel to validate these things in a much more smoother fashion. And if it is turning out to be a fraud case, a scam, you should definitely report to cybercrime cell immediately. And if it is leading to a financial loss situation, if just in case some payments have been made, uh, immediately report to this financial institute or bank so that they do what they can to try and reverse it, if at all that is possible within the given time frame. In summary, no matter how challenging the described situation may seem, if you stay calm and maintain control over your emotions, you'll find there are always clues around you that can help you regain the control and safeguard your interest. We'll be sharing more specific suggestions and recommendations in the upcoming sessions to further prepare you. In the meantime, stay vigilant, stay observant, and keep your shield up.